Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Jason, it's Pastor Dave, and I got questions and he's got answers. Hey, Dave, I had a guy at work, a new believer, come up to me and ask the question, hey, I need a Bible. What translation should I get? You go to any of the local bookstores and they're from the ceiling to the floor, different translations and different colors and shapes and sizes and the extra large print, which I need. And what would you encourage a new believer to do in terms of purchasing maybe their first Bible?
Right. Well, that's really an important question, I think, with the idea that it's in our area anyway, here in Indiana, it's pretty traditionalized that the King James, you hold on to, I think Jesus spoke in Elizabethan English or something, yeah. But the idea of King James, it's just so wonderful in the way it translates, in some of the wording, the way the commentaries and the word studies bring out the King James into our language, and it's very beautiful. But it's hard to understand with all the these and the thous and the dirks and what does that mean? Well, I find that the New King James kind of takes out a lot of the hard part of understanding it, and it stays really close to the King James. I teach now I used to be King James, and when I would teach, I would find myself changing the words. And then I realized I'm just changing it into what I'm finding it's translating out to, and it's really coming out to sound more like the New King James. And so I just teach from the New King James. I encourage people, young people, to find a translation they can understand, and I believe that's understanding. So it's close to the street language. It's close to the way we talk, right. And so it takes out a lot of the stumbling of the Elizabethan lingo. But find a good study Bible. I also encourage, the New King James Study Bible is really, to me, I find the notes in it really are helpful for young Christians. It's not in depth, but it's really helpful. And so even have some references. Don't just get a word, where you're just going to be reading. Just simply find references, because it will help you to go off into other areas and find where other verses are related, So it's finding a Bible you can understand, which I would encourage. Look at the New King James versions, and then find a good reference to it. Make sure it has a reference, which is that center aisle, or maybe it's on the side with other verses that are tagged to those verses. And if it has some commentary at the bottom, it's even more helpful. And I'm kind of opening myself up there, because some of it's probably kind of whacked. I don't know. Yeah. But it seems like the New King James is a very helpful Bible.
Are there any translations that you, in your experience, that you maybe even personally just didn't care for, or it didn't seem to have? I know the importance of words and language, yeah. And if you change it too much, it loses some of its exuberance. So are there any translations that you wouldn't recommend?
Well, years ago, there was the opinion that the NIV and some of these Bibles take out the blood, and a lot of the real point of Jesus is coming. I haven't found that to be true. I find the NIV is a translation. It's not a paraphrase. And what I would steer away from, is anything that's not translation. It's not a translation from what it would be an original text, or something that dates close to the original text. The NIV comes from another area of the actual translation that they get from the King James. They're both from dependable history, and though they differ in some areas, they don't differ any at all, I believe, in the very important issues of what we need to understand by faith and to grow by. But I would steer clear from the paraphrase, because what that simply means is it's not coming out of a translation. It's not being translated. It's like a commentary. It's somebody reading the translation and then writing a commentary to it. If you want to use like the Living Bible or the Message or something along that line, use it and have it in your mind. You're reading a commentary. You're not reading necessarily translated verses. So I'd encourage, find a Bible you can read. Get good helps that are in. Don't be afraid to get helps, like the references and the little commentary that will kind of give you some background history, perhaps location, and It'll be extremely helpful.
So for me, I use a New King James, have for years, like it. I have a study Bible. So the encouragement is look into a good study Bible, look into a good translation, not something that's been paraphrased. So if you're looking for a Bible, you could even go to these bookstores and ask the people their questions, whether or not it's translated or whether it's paraphrased. So also, it'd be a good idea if you do attend a church, find out what your pastor's teaching out of. And look into that Bible so you can read along word for word. Hey, thanks for joining us. And if you have any questions you'd like to add them to this video, and we'll see if we can get them asked to Pastor Dave.